Somewhere in the Coral Sea off Queensland, deep below the decks of the HMAS Adelaide 3, Australia's newest and largest naval ship, Lance Corporal Leithley is preparing for battle against a fictitious enemy.
When we're in LLC, probably 5 minutes from the shore, we'll get the guns up on the car to action.
Yeah.
Our crew command in ASLAV, it's an 8-wheeled vehicle with a 25mm cannon. We'll be the first recon team off.
As you can see behind me, all the armoured vehicles lined up ready to make a beach landing today in one of the biggest ever beach landings as part of exercise Talisman Sabre. Australian, US, Canadian, New Zealand and Japanese forces storming the beach together, and as you can see, preparations are almost complete for what we hope won't be too much of a rough landing.
And so is the case that you do this training and hope not to use it?
I'll definitely hope not to use it, but just always to be ready, sort of thing.
But the question of exactly what he and Australia's armed forces are training for is far more complex than today's event.
As a show of force, it sends a very strong deterrent message to the region. It sends a strong deterrent message to China.
The United States, with its allies, needs to develop a new way of war, and part of this is what's being tested and developed at Talisman Sabre.
We have to walk both sides of the street on this issue because our economic relationship with China is vital, and we have to find ways to protect our economic interests as well as our security interests.
Really no naivety, I guess, in Australia about how to think about China as a potential adversary.
At the heart of regional defence anxieties is the South China Sea, a complex intersection of 10 sovereign domains, international waters, and a patchwork of contested territorial claims. China has used an ambiguous 9-dash line to assert its claim here. Inside that 9-dash line, China's completed program of land reclamation, called the Great Wall of Sand by one US admiral, has turned reefs like Mischief, Subi and Fiery Cross into outposts with runways and deep water ports. According to the Asia Maritime Transparency Initiative, China has already deployed fighter jets and high-altitude surveillance drones to reefs like these. Most alarmingly for the US and its allies, there's been reports of anti-ship cruise missiles.
We don't know the answer to the question of Chinese intent. We can observe their capabilities. They've systematically acquired the military capabilities to challenge fundamentally American primacy in Asia.
Right now, as we speak, I think there's still a standoff taking place between a Chinese research vessel and some Chinese Coast Guard ships escorting it and Vietnamese Coast Guard vessels. Well, I think the chance of outright war is low, but there are a lot of naval vessels operating in close quarters on all sides in the South China Sea, and mistakes and misunderstandings are always possible.
Both China and the US and its allies hold regular freedom of navigation exercises in which tensions can easily escalate.
Foreign military aircraft, this is Chinese Navy. You are approaching our military alert zone. Leave immediately in order to avoid misjudgment.
Today, I'm going aboard a US expeditionary force, fresh from navigating through the disputed South China Sea on its way to Australia. The US Marines are taking me to a ship whose key role in the Pacific Fleet saw President Trump aboard earlier this year. The USS Wasp.
The USS Wasp represents one of a number of ways that the United States will be trying to project power into Asia. Not into the Asia that they've become used to, but an Asia that is now highly contested.
US hopes are on the new F-35B stealth fighter, the short takeoff version of the 72 F-35As Australia has on order as part of the issue-prone Joint Strike Fighter program.
The F-35 is not only able to penetrate Chinese contested airspace undetected, to survive in that space, it also represents the epitome of interoperability, because the United States, Japan, Australia, and many other allies and partners have all bought into this project.
For much of its life, this ship and its crew of 1,000 and 1,600 Marines have stayed close to home, maybe being deployed to the Middle East to fight ISIS. But as part of a renewed focus on the Pacific, it's now permanently forward deployed to its base in Japan.
An important part of the world. The Indo-Pacific is a region that I would say is too big for one nation to go alone. That's why allies and partners are so important.
The busiest man on deck here must keep tabs on the coming and going of every aircraft.
Welcome to Flight Deck Control, nerve focus area for the flight deck. Copy. As you can see, it can get pretty busy in here. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but it's rewarding when you see all the aircraft take off. The F-35s are a big hit out here.
The posture the US has in our region, the Indo-Pacific, means there's 370,000 troops and personnel, 2,000 aircraft and more than 200 boats and submarines. The buzzword here is interoperability, how these armed forces systems mesh and work together. Increasingly, the cooperation here is multilateral, not just bilateral, meaning the role the Japanese are playing in these Talisman Sabre war games is the biggest ever.
It really tells you that Japan is starting to think of itself as a more normal power. The view, particularly of the Abe government, has been that as China becomes, bigger and more powerful in its own right, Japan's going to have to work harder with its allies.
Japan is taking a much stronger role in the region, and the trilateral element with the US is also very important.
But for Australian soldiers like Corporal Julian Margison, completing this exercise will now make his unit eligible for combat deployment.
I'm assuming that it's going to be a 10 to 15 metre wet gap with water roughly at waist height.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
We're going to get wet.
Yeah, definitely.
And what is your objective here? What is the point of this training exercise today for you?
So, personally for myself, I'm a communicator within 7RAR. So my training objective to this is to ensure that the battle group has communication for the duration of the exercise.
Communications, which the Chinese spy ship reportedly off the coast may well try to intercept in a quiet competition for primacy in the Indo-Pacific region.
I'm sure we do it to them, so I'm not surprised that they're doing it to us.
Australia's role is a delicate balancing act, joining the US in deterring China whilst not angering China, our biggest trading partner.
It's true, Australia has a big economic relationship with China and a fundamental security relationship with the US. Do they conflict? Right now they don't. We've made our choice. We are in fact, in many respects, doubling down on it.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.